Alright YouTube, today we're going to be changing the brake pads on this Load Rite 5-star trailer. I'm also going to sand down the rotors because they're getting a little bit rusty and pitted up. We're going into my third season with this trailer. Bought it brand new 3 years ago. This boat is a little bit older. Unfortunately, when I bought it, the trailer it was on was shot, so I bought this Load Rite 5-star trailer, all aluminum with stainless hardware. Took it for a test drive the other day. I don't think the brakes are working too good, so like I said, we're going to change the pads, sand down the rotors. I already did this side. Now that I know that I can do one, I'm going to do the other and try and show you what I did as I go along here. So the other side's already done. I just popped the wheel off on this side. As you can see, it's a little rusty and crusty in there. And I rinse this off with fresh water every time I come home. I go out fishing in the Long Island Sound all the time, so dunking it in salt water at least once or twice a week through the summer. But yeah, this thing is rusty and pitted up. So I bought some sandpaper pads for my angle grinder here. Found them on Amazon. I think this one's 40 grit. They sell packs of 40 to 120 grit for like 18 bucks. You can look it up. I'm not going to put the link up there. It's not that hard to find on Amazon. Cheaper than buying it at Harbor Freight or Home Depot. Anyway, yeah. So we're going to pop this caliper off here. And we'll take the old pads out. Then we'll clean up this rotor. Clean up the caliper. Grease the slides. Put some new pads in and slap it all back together. So these are actually the Knott, K-N-O-T-T. See if I can focus in on that. Brakes and rotors that came with the trailer. Couldn't find a lot of videos on YouTube specific to this brand, but I mean they're all pretty much the same anyway. So I just figured I'd make a quick video and show you what I did here. There are two 5/8 bolts in the back here. Let's see. One and another one down low. You just gotta pop those out. And then this whole caliper will slide right off. I'm gonna put a bucket down underneath here to just rest the caliper on once I get it free from the rotor. So we'll do that off camera. Or well, let's see if I can maybe set this up so we can see what we're doing here. I'm by no means a YouTube professional. So now that caliper's free, we're just gonna see if we can pull it off of there. There we go. Just slides right off. So we're going to move the bucket here and rest the potatoes. That's it. Your two pads are on the inside here. They just slide right out. See if I can do this with one hand. There's one. Pads are in good shape still. I just figured I'd replace them because sometimes, from what I've seen in other people's videos, the pad gets delaminated from the backing and it can fall off. So I didn't know if that had happened with these or not. Just figured I'd go ahead and replace them for 50 bucks. Probably gonna need 2 hands to take this one out. Definitely goes a lot better with 2 hands. Go. The other one here. So next thing I'm going to do is, like I said, take my angle grinder and clean that up a little bit. And we'll spray everything down with brake fluid. This may be a completely unnecessary step. I really don't know. I've never done brakes before. I just want to get any of the grooves and uneven surfaces off of there. Let's take a look. Nice and smooth. I'm going to do the same thing to the back side. I'm not going to film that part. I got to get down underneath this thing to do the back side. But we'll pick up where we left off here in a second. Alright, now we got the front and back side of this pretty cleaned up. I mean, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. It's a boat trailer, not a space shuttle. Hopefully that's focused on the back side. I can't see it from here. So this just slides right out on your caliper. Those 2 slide pins, or whatever you want to call them, hold that in place. I'm going to spray those down with some brake cleaner and put some slide grease on them. We'll clean all that up, put the new pads in, and put this thing back together. Pretty simple job. Alright, so I sprayed that down. I'm going to take one of the old brake pads. You can see this I don't know what you would even call it. A piston is sticking out a little bit further than it should be. You got to take one of the old pads and a C-clamp, and it's easier when you use 2 hands. And we're going to compress that back in slowly. You don't want to go too fast because then you're pushing brake fluid back up into the lines, and I don't know, I guess you can rupture seals and different things like that if you go too fast. So you just want to compress this in slowly. That's it. Once it bottoms out, you're there. I'll take that C-clamp off and we'll put the new pads in. Don't forget to grease the slides on there before you drop that back into place. Got our slides greased up. You don't need much. Anyway, once you drop that down, you just push it back in. If I can do this with one hand or not. Yeah, there we go. Of course, we missed it. The glove was in the way. Just slides out, slides right back in. We'll put the new pads in. So the pads I bought, I couldn't get the Lodestar or the Knott, K-N-O-T-T, Knott brake pads. They're all out of stock on everybody's website. On Amazon, I found Michigan Motorsports brake pads. That's the part number right there. And they're the same size. The only difference in these, as opposed to the originals, is on the originals, they don't have these three little tabs, but I just left them on there. One thing I did have to do is take my angle grinder and sand this little nub off because it gets in the way back here. There's no little groove for it to sit in right here. So when you go to put it in place, well, you'll have to take my word for it. This is a two-hand job right here. When you go to put it in place, that little nub presses up against here, and there's a little bit more of a gap between the back of the caliper and the brake pad than there needs to be. So I'm going to grind that off and we'll put this all back together. That's it, simple as that. Ground that little nub down to nothing. There are some similar brake pads when you're searching for these online that look like they would fit, but the problem is where this part is curved right here, they sit nice and flat, and that won't work because the way you sit on the rotors here, they need that curve to fit properly to the rotor. So don't think you're going to get cheap and buy the $20 ones for whatever car they fit on at your local auto parts store. They have to have that little curve in there and they don't sit right. I was pretty disappointed when I figured that out myself. Love saving money. So yeah, these cost about $56, and of course the ones that are the same size that go on a car are about 20 bucks for the cheapest pads I could find on Amazon. But hey, what are you gonna do? You know what boat stands for. You bust out another 1,000. Always dropping more money than you should on a boat. So now that I got that nub ground off of there, we're gonna try and slide these back into place here. Of course, this is most likely gonna be a two-handed job. The back one just slides right in. I'm going to use two hands for this. We'll come back to it once the pads are in place. And then then this one, the front one, is going to slide down and just push back into these little grooves here. Right there and right there. Are we focused? There we go. Right here, this groove. Alright, of course, the light. There we go. Now the light's working in our favor. So these pads just slide right back into those little grooves. One there, and there's two on the back side. And then just gonna slide the bucket back. And I'll see if I can set up the camera to get a good angle here. This just slides right back over your rotor, and then you put those two 5/8 bolts back in. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on them. You know, before I put that caliper back on, just realized I forgot one important step. Since we sanded this down, I'm gonna spray that off with some brake cleaner, get all the dust and crap off of it. Should do it. Like I said, I put a little anti-seize on these bolts. So I do dunk this thing in the salt water quite a bit. I'm going to make sure I can get them off of there without breaking them next time. Don't ask me what the torque specs are. I just put this on the second setting. Probably shouldn't use power torque for this, but if you're not breaking it, who gives a shit? That's it. This thing's back in place. It spins freely. I'm going to put some more anti-seize on the front of this. That way the tire doesn't get stuck next time I go to take it off. Just make sure you don't put it on the brake rotor itself, and then your brakes really won't work. A little on these studs too. tire back on and we're done. I lied, we're not done. I totally forgot. We gotta bleed these brakes too. So there's a bleeder screw right here, or bleeder valve. I'm gonna get my Mighty Vac and we're gonna flush all the braking fluid out of this thing and change the brake fluid too. This trailer calls for .3 fluid. It'll say right up here. .3 brake fluid. So we're gonna take that cap off, get a turkey baster and suck out as much of the old brake fluid as we can. I'm starting on that side because that's the farthest side. Brake line's longer over there, so we'll get all the fluid out of that line, then we'll come back around and do the passenger side. So get yourself some channel locks. Loosen up this cap. That brake fluid actually doesn't even look that bad in there. You suck out as much as you can with your turkey baster. They say you're supposed to do this every 2 years because you can get moisture in your lines. Spill it all over the place like I did. And we're going to dump some more back in there and suck that fluid and air through the lines. So we're going to take our Mighty Vac, which comes with all these little attachments, put that right over this little valve right there. Find my 7/16 wrench that I brought out for this. Now, I've never done this before, but from what I understand, I don't know if you want to loosen this first. I think you want to loosen this first. Maybe we were supposed to pump this up first to 10 to 15 pounds of pressure. Yeah, I think we were. You can see the fluid coming down the line now. Just gonna suck all that fluid through while being careful to not go too low on fluid up on this end here. I'm just gonna keep adding fluid to this as it goes down. We're going to pull all the fluid through these lines and do the same thing on the other side. Well, bleeding the brakes turned out to be a fun job. Had to do it manually because the Mighty Vac kept introducing air into the line somehow. I don't know. It did create a vacuum seal, but every time I'd release the bleeder valve, it just sucked air into the line. So we did it manually with a little bucket of water. Of course, I don't have it set up. I'm all done now. Had to enlist my wife for this, but There's other videos on YouTube how to bleed your brakes manually on trailers, but basically you just set up a little bucket of water, put your clear hose right up to the bleeder valve, then you have somebody at the other end with a flat blade screwdriver. First you take your cap off. You want to maintain your fluid levels, keep it full while you're doing this. Have someone stick a flat blade screwdriver down here and just keep pumping back and forth, and you'll start to see fluid and air come out the line and down into your little bucket of water. What a pain in the ass that was. Not looking forward to doing it again in 2 years, but this is all done. I'm just going to slap the tire back on, and I am done with this project. Hope it helps somebody.